Welcome back to the BS shop, where that's pretty much all we do here. Trying to get back to work on the Datsun here after power tour. It needs a clutch. Let's get to work. I always forget how short this car is. This thing barely fits between the hoist arms. You gotta run it forward quite a bit. Anytime I lift the car, I always set the hoist arms, lift it up, maybe 6 inches to a foot, and then give it a wiggle. Now, this car wiggles a little bit more than normal cars do, but it's because the hoist arms have to be so narrow to actually fit between the wheels. So to start, we have to take the downpipe off because the transmission will not slip past with the downpipe on. So the bolts that we worked so hard to keep in the turbo, we now have to remove them. Hopefully all that Loctite cooked out of there, but see if I can't get those out. As you'll notice, I made this exhaust super complicated. It takes a lot to take it apart. We developed an exhaust leak when the engine tried to fall out of the car. Yeah, I'd like to see where that's coming from. I suspect it's this one right here. There you go. But right here, I kind of wiped some of it away, but there was a dark sooty spot right here on the bottom of the V-band clamp. So I think that might be partially where our leak was, but we'll know more once we get the downpipe out of here. There you go. You see a little dark spot right here? That may be the leak at this V-band. Those things, I don't know, the eBay or Amazon V-bands, they work, but I feel like they almost always leak. All right, back up in the air again. I love how I try to make it sound like it's inconvenient that there's this beautiful machine that literally does all of the damn work for me. Mind you, I am grateful, don't get me wrong. Okay, definitely forgot to take the shifter off. I don't think it's gonna drop out of that hole. If I remember correctly, I made that hole really small. You have to get this thing almost perfect before it'll drop through. So lower the car and pull the shifter stick out the top. Okay, just like that, 4 bolts, and the incredibly grimy shifter stick pops right out the top. So, sorry for the awful lighting, but all the bell housing bolts are out. The trans mount bolt out of the center is gone. So, gonna put a little tension on the transmission here and pop these loose for the trans cross member. All right, so transmission should be loose, or as loose as it's gonna get to be able to fall off of the back of the bell housing there. If you look right here, I just unbolted the slave and let it hang there. Here's the speedometer cable. Oop, be sure to whack your head on the tire. Oh yeah, it's loose already. It's gonna come right out. You gotta be kidding. Almost clear. There it is. All right, so without killing myself, with that, I think we're free. Yes. And the Bobs really did this a lot faster than I did. Wow. On Power Tour, they had their transmission out in like, I don't know, 15 minutes. There she is, everybody. Let me start by saying, I'm not sure how we made it home with this. So, taking a closer look here at the transmission, you can see there is what appears to be a lot of metal shavings inside the bell housing here. Look at the throwout bearing. It's actually okay. If we move the throwout bearing back, maybe you'll be able to see this piece of aluminum and a worn input shaft. Check this out. That right there is what's left of the throwout bearing support. If you look here, I didn't see this before, but this throwout bearing support was actually welded back on. Yeah, you can even see the marks of the welds there that broke. Not exactly right, I would think. And it snapped off and it dug into the input shaft quite a bit here. I don't know, maybe that's not that bad, but this throwout bearing support piece is junk. As far as the clutch goes, I actually expected this to be worse. The pressure plate here, you can definitely see there's a witness mark where the bearing was touching it, but this really isn't grooved that bad. So I'll pull the clutch disc off, we're gonna replace it anyway, but yeah, I expected this to be way worse. Out here, it's the next night. Okay, we're back at the goodie table. That's what we're gonna call this again, because hopefully this is all good news. Here's the collection of parts that I got for the clutch. So what I'm doing here is referencing a well-known clutch upgrade in like the 240SX and KA family or KA community, and that is, I believe it's called the White Bunny or the Red Bunny clutch setup. Essentially, long and short of it is, I'm using the flywheel and the clutch disc and pressure plate from a Nissan D21 pickup. According to message boards and stuff, I guess this clutch setup is good to around, I don't know, like 400 pound-feet of torque. Now, anybody in the comments, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on that. The point of this is it's a budget clutch that should give me OEM pedal feel, but with a lot more holding power. For a clutch kit on this, just ended up going with, here's the part number. This is a SOX clutch kit for a Nissan D21 truck. And then here is the flywheel over here. I'll take the plastic off, get you a better look at that. That is LFW146. That's a Luck clutch flywheel. If you're ever changing the clutch on a KA, I found out the hard way that there is a VIN split in the year of 1996, which has something to do with throwout bearings. Rock Auto offers two throwout bearings. This one is, there's the part number on that. Okay, there's the bearing right there. What I found out is this is the throwout bearing that was in the car, and here is the throwout bearing that I ordered. So this is for like March of 96 and later. This is up to February of 96 is the smaller bearing. So if you have a 96 and later transmission, this will be your throwout bearing. But for me, the correct part number is this one right here. It's the other option, so it's the earlier throwout bearing. So if you can see, that one is much, much closer. That's gonna work just fine. I'm curious, I wanna see what the clutch disc actually looks like, and I wanna compare it to the new one. So pull the throwout, or the pressure plate off here. So you can see, flywheel actually doesn't look too bad, and neither does the clutch, quite honestly. This is an Exetti, I believe. I don't know if this is like a really good disc or not. It does look pretty worn on both sides, and remember, this thing would just drive right through the clutch. So I'm gonna bring this over to the bench, we'll compare them. Okay, so here's the magic of this whole setup. The truth is, and it's simple, the clutch for the D21 pickup is simply, the clutch disc is simply larger. So right here, this is the new flywheel, and I have the old clutch disc right here. If you center up the clutch disc, the old clutch disc on the new flywheel, you can see that there's this groove right here in the flywheel. This clutch disc does not come all the way out to the groove. Now here is the D21. So you can see this clutch disc comes almost all the way to that groove in the flywheel. Overall, the clutch disc of the KA with the Nissan truck, or the D21, is about an inch larger overall diameter. The larger diameter clutch disc is going to give us more surface area and therefore hopefully more torque holding capability. That's all I'm after. This is a budget clutch. We'll see if it works. So this is just another quick comparison here. This is the 240SX with the car clutch. And the new clutch comes quite a bit closer to that groove all the way around. All right, it's time to pull the old flywheel off. Sure, those are important, and also probably unobtainium. One last bolt on here, and the flywheel's gonna come flying out of there. All right, take a look up in here. You can see metal shavings kind of all over the place. That's just from that piece of aluminum riding around in the input shaft. So I'll just spray all this off. The rear main looks good to me. I just put that in before we started the engine up. There's a tiny little bit of weeping there, but I'm not worried about it. So the one main difference here when you're going to install or do a white bunny or red bunny clutch setup is that on the car KA cranks, they have this little bitty alignment pin right here. I think that's because the car KA flywheel is balanced differently than the truck one is. So in order to use the truck flywheel, you just have to knock this pin off, that's all. So I'm gonna just take a punch or whatever and break that pin right off of there. Then the truck flywheel should bolt right in its place. Just in case it wasn't easy to see under the car, here's what I'm talking about. This is the 240SX flywheel, and see how there's just a little bitty alignment pin right there. Here is the truck flywheel. Okay, no little bitty alignment hole there. It does also have some balancing marks right there. But yeah, it does not use that alignment pin. All right, this is a trigger warning. Just letting you guys know, if there's any purists or do-it-righters out there, look away, because I'm about to break the factory part knowingly. So I have a chisel right here, and hopefully, since this is brass, that's all it takes right there. So I'm gonna come back with a piece of sandpaper, just make sure that's all the way flush, and then we'll go on with the new flywheel. So just trying to get this, as much of the metal shavings and stuff out of here. I don't really think it's gonna hurt anything if we were to leave it, but we'll clean it up because I saw it. Okay, new flywheel's going on. Should go right in place. Whether it's the right thing or not, I'm gonna use red thread locker, just a little bit on each bolt, just to make sure that these things don't come out. Fun fact, this red Loctite was actually a gift from a fellow power tourer who saw that we needed it to keep the damn bolts in the turbo's downpipe or the turbo to the manifold. Okay, we're gonna torque these exactly right. All right, so just same as when you're torquing anything, crisscross pattern. Snugged them down with the impact. So I think online I found anywhere from like 110 to 115. I'm gonna go 110 foot-pounds on this. One other thing to mention when you're doing the white bunny setup is the Nissan D21 pressure plate has 3 more bolts. So like a factory 240SX pressure plate has 6 bolts. There are just these little bitty guys right here. There, yep. Okay, these are M8 by 125 and they're pretty short. I thought I had an extra couple sitting around, but I don't, so I'm gonna run to the hardware store and grab 3 more. Okay, back from the hardware store, and believe it or not, these little bolts right here, man, $1.19 each. Anyway, you guys have seen me put a clutch together before. I'm not gonna bore you with any more of the details. I just wanted to cover those 2 differences between the car flywheel and the truck flywheel. I'll put this together and we'll catch up when it's all done. There's the new pressure plate, flywheel, clutch disc, everything's in there. And you can see that the clutch alignment tool, even though it's a cheap plastic one, this is what you're going for. You just want this thing to be able to slip all the way into the pilot bushing and spline on the clutch disc with the pressure plate torqued down. Flywheel bolts are 110, 112 foot-pounds. Pressure plate bolts are like 15 to 22. I did 22. A little bit of red Loctite on all of those. Now all we need is this thing right here, cover plate. So this is what the cover plate looks like right here. And you can see mine is broken. Someone had welded it previously and it broke off. There's the throw-up bearing support right there. All right, the clutch is in, everything's installed. We're just waiting for parts for the transmission, which should be here tomorrow. As soon as they come in, we'll get this thing put back together, then we can get it put in the car. Just in case Dina Machines is watching this, you can pet that dog and that dog. What are you doing? You monitoring me? Yeah? Making sure that I put the clutch in the right way, huh? This is Ruby. And this old girl is Maya. Right there, that's Maya. So I forgot, there's one other thing I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna replace the throw-up bearing here. So throw-up bearing that came with the clutch kit for the D21 is actually the right one. I think this is the earlier one, so like February of 96 and earlier. That's this one, that's this size bearing. So if you look at the profile of the bearings, there is a very distinct orientation that this goes on. Anybody that's got a question about it, I think this is right, but if it fails, well, don't blame me. But this side of the bearing here actually has like a raised surface there. So that's meant to contact the clutch fingers before the inner race does. So to replace the throw-up bearing, you gotta take the old one off the sleeve. And there's a million ways you can do this. I'm just gonna rest it in my vise. And then this is it's a 27 millimeter socket that fits down nicely inside the bearing. And then just gonna tap the sleeve out of the middle. And there is the old bearing right there. And there is the throw-out bearing sleeve. So there's the throw-out bearing sleeve right there and the bearing. And we'll just get that started on there in that orientation. So this is what will clip onto the clutch fork, and this is what will actually touch clutch fingers. So you can't see it from this side, but remember, the bubble side goes towards the clutch. So in order to put this back on, it's just sandwiched between two blocks of wood. And you use the vise here, push it home. It should go and essentially stop moving there. And voila, brand new throw-up bearing on there. Okay, parts finally came in. Here's what I need to fix that darn transmission. This is an actual Nissan part. So here is the front plate. It's interesting that the aftermarket, or I'm sorry, the replacement ones are actually cast iron. The one that came out of the transmission was aluminum. There's the gasket and the seal. I got all three of these parts from Z1 Motorsports, I think. It was like $100 or $110 shipped to my door. Okay, guess who's here? Steve 2.0, that's right, special guest. You guys recognize him? Yeah, you are back. Yeah, it's awesome. Steve's gonna go after some transmission tunnel modifications. We gotta smack it a little bit to make room for the little ears on the sides of the transmission. Then I think we're gonna just enlarge the shifter hole ever so slightly. While he's doing that, I'm gonna put the transmission back together. So if you guys hear hammering and stuff in the background, that's why. All right, so the only thing we had to salvage off of the old front plate was the pivot ball for the clutch fork. So that screws in right there. Get rid of that guy. A little bit of red Loctite, it goes right here. Okay, so here's the new front plate, and I just put the new seal in there on the input shaft. Let's see. Here's the gasket that comes with it. This is actually a Nissan part. Okay, so here's the gasket. Go right on with that. Nothing fancy, right? Should hold itself in place well enough. If not, I can apply a tiny bit of RTV, but I think the bolts should hold it in there. There it goes. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but it finally just kind of seated and cupped to that front bearing. Run all these bolts down tight. And then we can get the new throw-up bearing in here. So because this throw-up bearing support is new right here, we're gonna lube her up just a little bit, because this is the surface that the inner race of the throw-up bearing actually slides back and forth on. So we're gonna put just a wee bit of what I like to call schmeeze on here. That's a northern term, I guess, right? Yeah, for those of you down south, may not know what schmeeze is. Basically anything like this, okay? Grease, silicone, lubricant, whatever you use. I don't care what you use. Okay, so here's our new throw-up bearing on the old clutch pivot. Slam that guy in there, support, and then you should hear a nice satisfying little snap. Ooh, isn't that good? I'm gonna rewind the video and do it again. Right? Look at this action. Oh man, it's buttery smooth. Right? All right, you guys are probably getting sick of me moving this ring up and down this shaft, huh? Introducing Sweaty Steve. You guys are used to seeing this by now. Okay, transmission's ready to go in. New front plates on there. I put the special high performance grease that came with this clutch kit. Be very, very aware of how the performance level of your grease. We're gonna slam this transmission back in. I remember this not being a lot of fun. Taking it out is fine, putting it in is difficult, but we made a little bit more space. Greetings from under the car. Transmission's going up. I mean, it's funny, we're using a jack, but this transmission doesn't weigh very much. However, at this height, I don't think you want it to come crashing down on your foot. I don't care how tough you are, that would hurt. Okay, we gotta be getting close now.
Yeah, just go home.
Ooh, yeah, felt it there. Hang on. Camera. You're recording. Okay. It's like you guys know what's going on. Just leave it on. Don't ever shut it off. Other side. Should be able to just drive her all the way home now. Yep. There it is.
Yep.
On the dowel.
Yep.
Ta-da!
Use that.
It's actually a lot easier than it was the last time. We made a little bit of room on either side of the trans up here, and we made that hole larger for the shifter. My goodness, is that the fix or what? Okay, we'll slam the bell housing bolts in, put the clutch slave on. We'll catch up later when more of this is done. Okay, transmission bolted to the engine, cross members up, everything's tight, all back together. But while we're here, I was just about to hook up the speedometer cable, and I remembered this little guy. This is a new speedometer pinion with a different ratio gear that goes on the end of it inside here to actually drive the speedometer. This showed up the day we left for Power Tour, but later in the day, so we didn't get a chance to put this in. So I'm gonna shove this in real quick, and hopefully our speedometer is a little closer. On the trip, it was reading like 100 miles an hour when we were doing 70. Here's the speedometer pinion that I put in the first time. I think this is a 19 tooth wheel. Here's the new one. I think this is a 20 tooth wheel. Unfortunately, in Z-Car Depot, I'll give you guys a little bit of feedback. I know that these speedometer pinions can be changed in and out. There's just a roll pin right here. Yeah, but you didn't sell this one separately, so I had to buy another $50 pinion. Okay, put the pinion in. Last thing we need to do underneath for the first time is we're going to slam the drive shaft in. We got to lower it down then, put the downpipe in from the top, and then back up in the air to hook the exhaust up, and then we're done, other than filling the trans. One of the bolts broke off in the turbo when the downpipe tried to fall out of the car. I think that was, what, day one? Something like that. I just welded a nut to it. I've usually had really good luck with this, and it looks like I got enough a weld on the bolt to actually get it to come out. Obviously this is very hot, I don't want to touch it, but look at that. Oh, this is my one broken ratchet wrench too. I keep it around because every once in a while the ratcheting mechanism in there kind of jostles just right and it starts working. So I'm going to back this out, we're going to find another bolt, and then we can put the gasket and the downpipe back on. Alright, we're going to try starting this thing up. We're going to see if that clutch does something or not. force. Okay, reverse. Yes, we have a clutch. Okay, we take this for a quick cruise around the road. Okay, from inside the car, I'm gonna try to do this. It's very difficult to do by yourself, but okay, so again, big problem I had with this clutch was that I could not accelerate in 4th or 5th gear. So right now, we're in 4th, just kind of cruising along. I'm just gonna give it some gas. Okay, I'm sure you guys can probably hear there's detonation. Obviously, gotta finish tuning, but this thing holds the power just fine in 4th and 5th gear. With that, we finally have a clutch in the Datsun. Essentially, we built it, we took it on power tour, it broke, and we brought it back here and parked it. We did everything we could to limp it home and nothing more. If you're looking for footage of the Pierce Park and the Kimberly Paper Fest car show, that'll be in a separate video. I wanted to keep this one short as possible. We are going to get back to dialing this thing in. Stay tuned for that. If any of you guys are interested in merch, we have hats, we have shirts. Check out the link in the description below. For those of you who have recently subscribed, thank you all very much. And for those of you who have been longtime subscribers, I appreciate that and I am infinitely grateful. I'm having a blast with this stuff and hopefully we can get back to tuning on the Datsun. Thank you all so much for watching and I'll catch you in the next one.